Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we're taking a look at a deck profile for Red Eyes Rebels. This is basically the Royal Rebels deck combined with the Black Dragon Rising skill, which is the support skill for the Red Eyes Black Dragon. If we take a look at the skill real quick, we can see that this skill can be used if you have at least 7 level 5 or higher monsters in your deck. Obviously, we're playing a lot of the Royal Rebel cards, which do require high levels to be tributed. So we're playing our 3 Heavy Metal, we're playing our 3 Growl, and we're playing the 1 Red Eyes to make our 7. Can be activated on turn 2 onward by returning 1 card from your hand to the deck, reveal 1 Black Dragon's Chick in your hand, and add a Red Eyes Black Dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then you can decrease the attack of one face-up monster on your opponent's field by 400 until the end of the turn. Your level 7 effect monsters cannot attack this turn. Now, this level 7 effect monsters cannot attack this turn is really important because that means if we are playing level 7 monsters specifically, it does kind of hinder them, which means you don't want to play this with like Dragius or pretty much most of the other boss monsters in the game, but we can play it with our level 8 monsters such as Heavy Metal, so pretty good synergy there. Heavy Metal, obviously a really powerful card. During the turn you normal summon this card by tributing a level 5 or higher monster. We can choose one face up level 8 or lower monster with the lowest level on your opponent's field. This card gains attack equal to that monster's attack, and then we can destroy that monster. So it's pretty good. It has a lot of restrictions on it, right? It has to be a level 8 or lower, so it won't work on maximums or fusions without some shenanigans happening, as well as the fact that it only hits the lowest level on your opponent's field, and it only hits face-up monsters. So there's a lot of restriction there, but that's because the effect is so good. Being able to pop a monster and then gain a load of attack can be extremely powerful, as well as the fact that we have easy access to a level 7 monster to tribute if we want to, thanks to the skill and Black Dragon's Chick being able to cheat it out so easily. So Royal Rebels Heavy Metal, fantastic card for the deck. Next up, the other kind of boss monster of the deck is Royal Rebels Growl. So only 1800 attack, but that's because it's level 6. During the turn you normal summon this card by tributing a level 5 or higher monster, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. One face up level 8 or lower monster on your opponent's field loses attack and defense equal to its level times 200. So again, needs to be face up, needs to be level 8 or lower, which can get a little bit annoying. This deck's main struggle is to actually deal with your opponent just setting a bunch of defense monsters and getting to your opponent to try and kill them without them just stalling out until they draw the outs to deal with what you've got. But Royal Rebels Growl can be very powerful. Being able to reduce the attack of a level 7 monster by 1400 is really good and lets you attack over it quite easily. Next up we have Seahorse Carrier, and this is part of our mini Aqua engine that we have in here. We have the 2 Seahorse, the 3 Canaan, and the 2 Lamoon. And this is in here basically because this deck's one major weakness is we tend to run out of cards quite a lot. In order to summon out our boss monster, for example, typically we'll have to normal summon a monster, then tribute it to get out a Royal Rebels Growl, or use Palace Gargoyle's effect, which again requires another card. Then we need to summon out another monster, then we use them both as tributes, and it ends up just feeling like a lot of cards used. So any way to plus is always going to be extremely important in this deck, so Seahorse Carrier is very important. On top of the fact that we just have a lot of tribute monsters, therefore being able to have fodder to be used for those tribute monsters is always going to be very important. And Seahorse Carrier specifically, and I guess the Aqua package in general, is a lot more slim, so it does kind of slot in quite nicely, whereas the Beast engine is quite cumbersome. It's quite a large package and therefore takes up the majority of the deck. Next up, Palace Gargoyle. So we can send 1 card from our hand to the graveyard, increase this card level by 1 until the end of the turn. So again, this is in here almost entirely just to be used to trigger our Growl and our Heavy Metals effects, which only get their effects by tributing a level 5 or higher monster. Being able to make itself level 5 is really cool. Unfortunately, we do have to lose a card to do this, but it is a necessary evil because getting off our Royal Rebels effects is always going to be the most important thing. Then we have 3 Red Eyes Black Chicks. These cards are amazing. If we just open one, we can just instantly grab our Red Eyes Black Dragon from our deck. On top of the fact that if Red Eyes goes to the grave, we can just keep getting it back with Black Dragon's Chick again. Weakening our opponent's monsters is also obviously going to be really strong, as well as the fact that sometimes the better option, instead of just using Chick for the Black Dragon Rising skill, grab out the Red Eyes, and then immediately summon Chick, shotgun it to summon out the Red Eyes, sometimes it's better to hold onto the Chick for the following turn and just hard tribute summon out the Red Eyes Black Dragon. Then we can use the skill again next turn, knowing we already have a Chick in hand, to bring it back and get that power decrease on your opponent, and then maybe use it then to actually send it to the grave and special summon out the Red Eyes, which can be a very powerful strategy. Next up, we've got our Canaans, which are just 1400 beaters. They're in here basically just to be brought back with Seahorse Carrier. Then we have Nessus the Star Knight. This is in here to give our deck a little bit of oomph. Having 1500 attackers is quite good. I think a lot of people are already kind of reaching the stage where they're like, oh, well, I want more effect monsters or cards that can be used for engine pieces such as the Seahorse Carrier and Canaan. But 15 is still a very good number. A lot of monsters still can struggle to deal with it, and it guarantees able to attack over defense position monsters that aren't tribute monsters, so still pretty good. Then we have the Tula Moon. For our legend, we have Monster Reincarnation, and the main reason for this is a lot of our monsters have 0 defense anyway, so we do actually get hard countered by getting shield and sworded ourselves. On top of the fact that weakening our opponent's defense isn't usually our main strategy. What we do, however, is need to make sure that we're getting our effects off, and the best way to do that is to get access to Palace Gargoyle, is to bring back Seahorse Carrier, or just to bring back the boss monsters themselves, because bringing back a Royal Rebels Heavy Metal is extremely powerful and can just win the game on the spot in the right situation. Next up, we're playing the 1 copy of Pierce, and this is a bit of a suspect inclusion. I've found that a lot of the time, your opponents will just see what you're playing and just play a load of defense. And if we're able to just pierce through them, it can oftentimes actually just decide the game. So it's a hard card to use because it's only the one of. I feel like if we play more than 1 Pierce, we end up drawing more than 1 Pierce. We usually only want to find the 1 copy of Pierce. And it is a little bit clunky, but it seems to me like a necessary part of the deck, even though it's a clunky part of the deck. Then there's Widespread Ruin, best card in the game. There's not really much more to say. Widespread Ruin is fantastic. It decides games. It's incredible. We recently went on a pretty good tournament streak where we got 2nd place because of Widespread Ruin just being that strong. So you basically can't not run this card, and we'll have to see if it gets replaced by a stronger trap in the future. Next up, Music Princess Recital. This is a trap card that I don't usually like, but our deck specifically tends to spin down quite a lot. We end up using up a lot of cards and not having very many monsters on our board, which means Music Princess's Recital is actually live a lot of the time, and oftentimes is used to protect our bigger monsters. And if we can protect a 2500 from being attacked, chances are your opponent only has one way to deal with that 2500 via attacking, which means if we can stop that one attack, it basically gets to stick around for the whole turn, which means it has extra synergy in this deck, so we actually really do like it in here. And then finally, the Barrier is a fantastic trap. Being able to destroy your opponent's monsters during their turn is always going to be incredible. Being able to recycle cards is always going to be great. You can use this to put Black Dragon's Chick back in your deck. You can use it to put Seahorse Carrier back in the deck. We can recycle Gargoyle. We can even recycle our boss monsters if we want to. It's just a really strong card, and if you're playing any monsters that have 2500 attack, or in this case 24, because Red Eyes is also a pretty good target for it, it's just really strong, and you should be using this card if you can fit it in the deck. So this is the deck. It's actually okay. Royal Rebels is an archetype I've always really been fond of, but I've always struggled to play them because the idea of minusing yourself or negging yourself quite a lot over the course of the game never really sat well with me. I'm always the kind of player that likes a lot of advantage. I like a lot of draw power, and it almost feels like this deck does the opposite. But the boss monsters are actually very, very strong. If you can somehow use your Royal Rebel Heavy Metal effect on your opponent's high-level monster, so for example, if they just have like a Dragius or something, being able to pop it and gain 2500 attack is absolutely insane. This deck definitely does have teeth and has been performing at quite a high level, and I do think the Red Eyes version is better than the default pure Rebels version at the moment. But as we've seen in the leaks, we will be getting more Royal Rebel skills soon, which means we expect to get more Royal Rebel support, so hopefully the pure Rebels build will get a bit of a boost going forward. But this deck does seem quite strong. The only negative for it right now is if your opponent's just setting a bunch of monsters, we can't really do much about it. We basically just have Pierce to deal with it. Other than that, we just have to keep just attacking into them and hoping to just get rid of them and hope they don't just OTK us back if they're playing something like Spellcasters. But other than that, this deck does actually have a lot of good matchups into a lot of decks. Let's fire on some replays so I can show you what I've been talking about.
参りますラッシュデュエルラッシュデュエル